So our next presentation is from Richard Self. Richard and I have known one another for quite a long time, and Richard has this huge responsibility of chairing this employer panel on agriculture, environment and animal care, clearly linked to the apprenticeship schemes, and we're really interested, Richard, in how you're approaching your role, because this is a critical part of the jigsaw that we need to embrace. So, Richard.
So, to start off with, thank you very much for inviting me here today to speak on behalf of the Institute for Apprenticeships, and obviously going to run through about the IFA, about the importance of workforce development and also working together, which is a common theme that's coming out across the speakers previously. First of all, just like to ask, how many people in the room started off their career as an apprentice? Oh, that's pretty good, that's not bad. Hopefully, in 10 years' time, we'll come back and there'll be 50% of the hands raised. I started off as an apprentice, and I certainly used the skills that I learned in my apprenticeship every week of my life since then. It's a good start. So the IFA was set up in April of this year to drive forward the quality of apprenticeships, and I think it was due for a change. For somebody who'd been involved in this most of my career, you know, I think it was time for apprenticeships to be sort of revamped and refocused. And the IFA is a permanent feature going forward, and we have cross-party support for apprenticeships, so it should still be there for a long time to come. The key thing about this, and it has been said before, about employers being at the centre of this. Employers absolutely key on this. You know, when they looked at why people weren't getting involved in apprenticeships, it was because they felt that they weren't the right quality, they weren't relevant to them in their business. And so the IFA are putting employers' views right at the heart of this. The process of setting up new standards is a sort of four-stage process here. So if an employer group like Garant, you know, says, I've identified the need for an apprenticeship, they can develop an apprenticeship standard, and they put it through the IFA to actually see, can they develop this standard? Once the IFA looked at the criteria behind that, and looked at whether it sort of supplements and complements the other standards, they can get approval for it, and then continue on to develop that standard, working in a triage process back with the IFA, which does take too long, or has taken too long, and I know the IFA are really keen to try and improve the speed of that process of developing the standard, and obviously having fixed goalposts as well. And hopefully that will be better in the future. But once that standard has been developed in that process, backwards and forwards between the employer group and the IFA, it's then submitted to the employer panel for the route. And that's where my job comes in as chair, to look at that and give sort of final consultation on that, final feedback on that, before it's then put forward and recommended for approval by the IFA as an apprenticeship standard. When that's been done, we can then move on to the assessment plan, to developing the assessment plan, and within the new apprenticeship structure, there's a new endpoint assessment. So after all the training has been done, a different organisation focuses on the assessment. This is to help drive up the quality, to make sure that when somebody finishes their apprenticeship, they are truly competent in doing that job. An employer gets that person through with an apprenticeship in a particular topic, at a particular level. They know what they can do when they go out on the job for real. So the assessment plan specifies how that's got to be carried out. That assessment's got to be carried out. The final stage of the process is to then allocate it to a funding band. And again, the panel that I chair oversees that and makes recommendations on that funding band. So that's the process. The structure of the IFA is this. So you've got a board of employers at the top and industry representatives, and you've got the trailblazer groups working on standards and assessment plans at the bottom. They feed into the 15 route panels. Okay, and agricultural, environment and animal care is over there as one of them. And apparently, so I've been told, it's one of the most diverse route panels. It's got the widest number of occupations in there, different types of occupations, and the number of occupations. So we've got a very diverse group that we all need to make sure is represented on the panel. And the panel is being developed as we speak, and we're recruiting sort of panel members, and that will be announced shortly, who's on the panel. Also, these occupational maps behind each of these route panels will be released shortly for consultation to make sure that each occupation is in the right box, if you like, going forward. You can see that the green boxes on there are also ways that the IFA actually consult further, both with apprentices, with other stakeholders, the wider stakeholder group, and also for quality assurance, because quality is key going forward. So that's a little bit about the IFA and the panel. As I said, the employer group that I chair is the key sort of gateway, if you like, for occupational, the standards, apprenticeship standards going forward. So talking a bit more about workforce development, and as Tim has already said, the current situation is, the backdrop for that is productivity. Our productivity, if you've been listening to the news any time in the last few months, it's all about productivity. And in agriculture, my sort of subject area, our productivity, as you saw from the chart that was put up earlier, is not performing well compared to our international competitors. And a key part of that is skills and learning and education. And if we look at the sort of things involved in developing workforce, I just want to run through a few things there that I want to consider when developing the workforce to improve our productivity. We need labour market information. Have we got the right labour market information about what we've got now, where people are, and what we need in the future? Have we got the necessary public and private funding at the right levels to get the number of people trained up, the quality that we need to train up? Have we got employers with the right attitude who sees training as an investment, not as a cost? And also, practice good practice in HR so that we can recruit and retain the right people in our industry. Have we got individuals who want lifelong learning, continual professional development, who look to see how they can develop their skills and competence going forward? Have we got the training providers, the colleges, the universities that we need in the right place, delivering the right products and services with the right resources behind them? And as Geraint mentioned about career paths, I think we've been bad at that in the past. We've been bad at sort of setting out our career paths, what the end destinations, those wonderful range of jobs that we've got in our sector. We're not highlighting them enough, and it's not clear enough about how you can progress from a first stage apprenticeship right the way through to degree level roles. And then finally, we've got making sure that apprenticeships are fit for purpose, that people, when they achieve their apprenticeship, are competent. And then hopefully in the near future, getting T levels so that you've got an option at 16 to going on to A levels. You can have a more technical route. And if we can get all of that in line, we can help to start to address our workforce. So just think about those areas and think about how well we're performing in those. Then I just want to show you this. This is a quote that I've been using over the years, actually. The ability to learn faster than your competitors may be the only sustainable competitive advantage. So what that is saying, if that is true, what it is saying is, forget the rest. Learning and skills is the key to productivity. The technology and the other things will follow if you get the skills and the learning right. I mean, very often nowadays, the new technologies that are owned by big multinationals and our competitors, international competitors, are getting that at the same time or before us. So we have to recognize that, and we have to prioritize that. And generally, when you look at that big list, I think we have to do better. We're all working very, very hard, and lots of people, good people doing lots of good work, but we must do better if we want to do something about our productivity. Productivity is not just about size and scale. Okay? If we are, in agriculture anyway, if we are looking at size and scale as giving us competitive advantage, then we're probably going to lose out. So we need a workforce that is agile and is quick to learn so that we can deal with that. So if you combine those big challenges, the skills, then the learning, the funding restrictions that we've got, and the workforce recruitment, you combine those three challenges and think, well, how on earth are we going to deal with this when we're all working flat out on this at the moment? And I'm going to repeat what Geraint says. We've got to work together. We've got to work together better than we have been. There's two ways we can work together, all pulling at the same time and expending a lot of energy and not actually getting very far. And it feels like the whole process that we've been going through the last few years, it feels like we are struggling to make progress. What we need is this type of team where we have a clear purpose, a clear destination. Everybody knows who's in the team and what their role is and what they're going to do going forward. So, how do we get there? How do we work together better? We need a strategy, we need a plan. We need to know where we're trying to get to, we need to know how we're going to get there, what route we're going to take to get there. We need our industry leaders, anybody who is powerful, influence, or most importantly got budget. We need them to start saying, no, actually skills is the area, learning is the area. Do we need one organisation? Other industries have developed one organisation to deal with this. I'm not saying that we should do that. I think we need to look at it. Need to learn by other sectors to see what they've got. But I do think it should be formal. I do think it should cover our area of agriculture, environment and animal care, because they work together nicely. That's why we've got the occupational maps there for that particular area. Let's use the format and the structure that we've got now. I think everything's too short-term at the moment. We've got to start thinking long-term. We're in a long-term sector, and therefore we've got to start thinking 5 to 15 years, try and get things. If we start training up people at 11, getting them wanting to have a career in our land-based sector, you know, it's 25 before they're really competent, really good at their job. It takes a long while to get them there. So we've got to start thinking long-term ourselves. And we've got to focus on the quality of training. Employers have to value the training. They have to recognise that when they get somebody coming through with a qualification, they are competent to do that. So I do think we all must do better, and I think we can do better if we work together. Thank you very much.
Richard, that was great. There's a bit of a common theme emerging from our speakers, which we can pick up at the end.